After 7 long years, Ys Memories of Celceta is finally coming to the PlayStation 4. First released back on the PS Vita in 2013 and then later on PC, console gamers are finally going to have a chance to regain their lost memories for the first time ever on June 9th. To help celebrate this long overdue port, I wanted to go back to where it all started. I'm talking about Ys Book 1. This is where we meet Adol and go on an epic adventure to collect a bunch of books. All with a kickass soundtrack and voice acting that isn't as terrible as you might expect. So turn back now if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're going to spoil the story and ending for Ys Book 1 on the TurboGrafx-CD. This is Game Over, the early years. Ys Book 1 has the single greatest video game intro I've ever seen. Okay, that's not true, but it was when I booted up the game for the first time all the way back in 1990. At a time when most games started with a wall of text and a repetitive chiptune soundtrack, Ys gave me real narration and gorgeous CD music. Try to imagine, if you can, just how impressive this cinema was 30 years ago. This is how we're introduced to the first book of Ys.
Ys, the ideal utopia. Once a country so peaceful and prosperous. A country where children were as free as the wind. A country where harmony blew through the hearts of all men. Ys, a kingdom ruled by the wisdom and charity of its 6 powerful priests. An empire watched over and blessed by the enchanting aura of its 2 beautiful goddesses. Ys, the seemingly tranquil paradise, suddenly pulled from the height of its civilization to the empty abyss of infinite isolation. How could such a land of promise simply vanish from the face of the planet? How could such prosperity be forgotten? The legend has been silenced for over 700 years. And now, the mystery unfolds.
What, you were underwhelmed? Alright, fine, you asked for it. It's time to bring on the second half of the intro. The deep voice narrator may want to paint Ys as an idyllic paradise, but that was hundreds of years ago. By the time Adol Kristen sails to Zepek Village, things have taken a turn for the worse. You can tell that there's a whiff of fear in the air, with the townspeople on edge and the mayor's daughter, Sarah, acting strange. She keeps talking about how the world is about to end and how this little red-headed kid is the only one who can stop this from happening. Yeah, that's alarming, but the people of Zepek have a more pressing concern. It seems that thieves are breaking in and stealing everybody's belongings, including the famed silver bell and the town poet's harmonica. Not willing to just stand around and do nothing, Adol sets out on what he thinks will be a simple quest. Little does he know that he's about to begin an epic adventure that'll play out over the course of at least 8 different games. For now, he only has one lead. The mayor has seen mysterious men take rare and shiny items into the nearby shrine. He's desperate to get those bells back because it's the only thing keeping the monsters from invading their village. The good news is that the shrine is not that far away from the mayor's house. Unfortunately, the bad news is that it's a labyrinth and teeming with enemies. It's also a prison, which is where we meet up with a young captive girl named Fina. She's understandably excited that somebody finally came to get her and shows her gratitude by giving Adol the exact thing he needs to defeat the boss and collect the volume Adol, which just so happens to be the first book of Ys. Oh, that reminds me. Between everybody freaking out about the thieves coming to town and the world potentially coming to an end, Sarah mentioned that there are 6 books of Ys. You see, Ys was this ancient country that recorded all of its history in 6 different volumes. The odd thing is that when Ys disappeared, so did the books. Or did they? Because here we have Adol holding the first book of Ys. Yeah, we're gonna need to head back to Zepek to see what Sarah knows about all of this. Oh no! Sarah's dead! On the bright side, she left a surprisingly detailed letter just in case this happened. We're told that her buddy, the poet, has the 2nd book of Ys, but she won't be handing it over until you find her stolen harmonica. Long story short, it's in a cave. Adol returns the harmonica to the poet, and just like that, we're already a third of the way through having the full set. Now, if you're wondering how Adol will find the next book, then fear not, because the location of the 3rd volume is in Sarah's death note. It's time to head to the mines, which is yet another maze filled with bad guys. It's here where we find this cool bat boss, who our hero quickly defeats in order to reveal the volume Dabby. Well, that's half the books, but there's one problem that still needs to be addressed. How the hell are we supposed to read this ancient text? Conveniently, Jiva is able to translate the books, and hey, look at that! She's standing right next to Fina, who Adol rescued from the shrine. Here's what we know so far. Back in the day, Ys was controlled by 6 priests and 2 goddesses who were thought to be the embodiment of health and happiness. They used a magical metal known as Claria to become rich and powerful, with the nearby shrine being the perfect symbol of the country's immense wealth. But the perceived safety and power was upended when the land was gripped by violence. Lava flowed through the country, burning everything it touched. The people of Ys feared that all of this devastation was caused by the creation of Claria, so they decided to bury the rest of it deep within the ground. The book comes with a warning that if this material is ever unearthed, the end of the world will once again be upon us. Okay, that's one hell of a cliffhanger. Now that we're hooked on this series, we obviously have to find the 4th book. But where is it? Maybe the bandits in the mountains know where it is. This drunk and apparently rich stranger seems to think that the next volume is in Darm Tower, which the locals call the Tower of Death. Apparently, the place is so bad that the door only opens from one direction. That way, the enemies that are inside can't creep out. That means that once Adol enters the tower, he's never going to be able to leave. Yikes. So, obviously Adol enters the tower. I mean, once you've collected the first 3 books, you might as well catch them all. This is a large and tricky tower that will require our hero to use all of his special items and abilities to unlock its secrets. And just when you think you're getting the hang of things, Adol is magically teleported into a prison cell. It's here where we meet up with Luda, a descendant of an ancient East priest who's also been captured by the tower. We listen to a sad story, and just when it starts to drone on a little too long, this guy named Colin bursts through the wall and helps the two escape. It seems that Colin is friends with this old guy named Rasta, who just so happens to have the one thing you need to make it through Darm Tower alive. Now, in case you're wondering, these aren't the only people trapped in the tower. As Adol frees more survivors, they tell him of this woman who's locked up in one of the higher floors. Yeah, she seems important. As it turns out, the captured woman is the poet from Zepik. That's right, she's the one who wanted the harmonica. And as crazy as this sounds, she actually got captured on purpose. Because as she explains, that was the only way for the two to meet up again. She reveals that the demon behind all of this is named Dark Fact, and he's plotting to use his evil powers to make the land his own. Sure, that's bad, but all Adol can do is climb the tower, upgrade his weapons, and find the remaining books of Ys. That last thing is especially interesting to Luda for obvious reasons. After reading Volume Gemma, he gives our hero an amulet that'll break Dark Fact's protective spell, allowing Adol to defeat him once and for all. Of course, Dark Fact is skeptical that a puny red-headed kid could defeat the pure embodiment of evil. Yeah, I don't blame him. This definitely feels like a one-sided fight. Thankfully, Adol's friends came through with all the protection he needs, allowing that mighty teenage ginger a chance to save the day. And as luck would have it, Adol beats Dark Fact and collects the 6th and final book of Ys. We skip right to the final chapter to discover that Ys didn't disappear at all, but rather found a way to raise the entire island into the sky. They hoped that one day a chosen hero would defeat the evil and allow Ys to return to its former glory. Could that hero be Adol? He closes the book and disappears, and at long last, this is what happens next.
All communication to Darm Tower has been cut off. What should we do to stop this rogue? His bravery presents an interesting challenge. Let's see how far this Adol character can go before we crush him. Very well then, sir.
Obviously, this ending is more of a setup to the next game than a proper conclusion. For those who bought East Book 1 and 2 on the TurboGrafx, this is really just the halfway point for the collection. Well, I'm sure there are people that would argue that this is actually the intro cinema to Book 2. But even with all that in mind, this is still a wonderfully satisfying ending that sets up a big mystery and gives us just enough closure on the first quest. Granted, the story was paper thin, and it only takes about 2 hours to get here, but I love this cliffhanger. Of course I'm going to want to see what happens when you shoot our hero into the air and we see a dark figure talking to a demonic mirror. Are you kidding me? That's half the reason I play video games in the first place. But forget the story for a moment, because I want to talk about this ending cinema. You have to remember that this game isn't like the Valis series. East Book 1 basically has an intro cinema and an ending cinema, and that's it. The animators saved all of their best stuff for the 2 cutscenes, and it shows. The ending really could have been nothing more than a guy getting shot up into the sky, but we actually see the process from a bunch of different angles. That whole segment is a really complicated affair, and I love how they presented it. They made it count, and that's just one of the things that I love about East Book 1. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Game Over, the early years. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes almost every Monday. Now here's the question I have for you. What game has the coolest intro cinema? Look, I love this East intro, but clearly we've seen a lot of stuff come out in the last 30 years. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with a review of East Memories of Celceta. Also, we just posted a new episode of Defunct Games news, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's easily the funniest episode yet, and I make 2 different cameos in it. You gotta tune in for that alone. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.